Yo, do we have any Bleach fans in the house? Yeah, no, not like that kind of Bleach, all right? The real Barb, sit down. We're talking about Bleach, right? Like, you guys a big fan of this sword? Well, then you might like the Leapquake Barbarian build for 2.6.10 and Season 22. Yo, this Sescheron Slaughterhouse slam and jam and hop and don't stop type of build will crush your enemies. As you can see in the gameplay footage here, you jump 3 times and you're just creating these giant craters in the earth, or earthquakes and volcanoes. You can go fire or you can go ice, and it's really thematic, really iconic in the community. Everyone either knows about Leapquake Barb or has heard of it in some way. It's pretty good, and it's getting a lot of buffs this season, which we're going to cover later in the build, and all that's going to be on the website, bloodshed.com, so you can definitely check there. But one thing I like about this build, like I was saying, is you feel like a barbarian, like you're jumping in the middle of things, you know, smashing and crashing. I'm just trying to make rhymes, that's all. That's all I'm trying to do, right? It's all about the memes, basically. But this Barb is good, man. It's stronger than ever before with the Shadow Clone season and the 4 slot in the cube. I just got procced here in the footage. But it is quite tanky. You can build even more tankier than ever before as well. So bear that in mind. Also keep in mind, I'm using 800 Paragon, less than 100 gem levels, right? Less than 10k main stat. So all that's super important to take into consideration, right? Right here, I'm looking at my Shadow Clone do damage. So if you're playing this in Season 22, this is a 110 Barb with Shadow Clone damage, right? The clones got nerfed significantly, but you can see they're still helping, right? It's better percentage than we haven't had before. So I actually grabbed a shield pylon just to kind of check the damage. And even after waiting and not DPSing for a minute, I was still able to get the clear. So just bear in mind, I pushed the builds really far at a low level so you guys can see an honest results from an honest Diablo player, and you can kind of see what you could accomplish, right? With literally baseline stats. And then, you know, you can kind of go off of that. Once you add augments, you can go even further. But yeah, I started DPSing here, and it kind of showed, you can see right there, you know, all of our buffs when we flashed it on screen. I'm always going through different builds, so you got to check the website for the latest and greatest. But yeah, man, I would recommend Leapquake. It's in a good spot, and it's fun to play. So Leapquake. All right, Blood, what's new with the build? Give me the 411 breakdown. Well, they buffed the sword. The Blade of Tribes that we just showed has an 800% multiplier on it. So they took off the additive damage that was on the weapon. So you remember you used to have to hold it. They put a fat multiplier on this big bad boy two-hander. And if you want to, you can cube it, right? So you can cube it now, or you can hold it. If you hold it, you get the added benefit of getting max fury. The more fury you dump, the more cooldown on your abilities, and the more life you get back. Because as you spend fury, you have life per fury, you're getting fury back. So bear that in mind. It's really good to wear it, but the odds of you getting an 800% perfect ancient is probably not going to be pretty high. So in most cases, I'd probably just cube it and then hold the furnace or whatever combo you decide. You can dual wield or all kinds of things. And I'll show you my build later on in the gear description of the video. But yeah, big multiplier, and Warcry and Threatening Shout now cause an avalanche and earthquake. Avalanche and earthquake both deal 800% increased damage, and it's noticeable, and it's extremely noticeable on like a GR 100. If I had done the 100, it would have just destroyed the rift, and it's just, yeah, it was really good. In terms of build power, I would say you could probably do a 107 really easily. Like in the footage, I did a 110. But, you know, I have a lot of experience with Leapquake, and I have to take into consideration, I know how to play it already. My positioning's really good and all this stuff. I know how to use life per fury and so forth. I would say with, you know, 800 Paragon, like we talked about earlier, you're looking at like a 107 GR clear baseline, which is standard for like a mid to low A tier build, which is really good to be in the A tier. A tier is like, you can pretty much get everything you want done in the game, you know? And then at a high end, once you start adding Paragon and, you know, augments and all that, this build can go to 135. It's really good. It kind of scales nicely. This build has actually broke a 130 in the past. So you can only imagine with the 800% multiplier and the shadow clones and the 4 slot, you're looking at 135 plus build. And to be honest, most people don't even break a 120 solo. So you should have no problem. You can even do like pugs. You know, if you get into these groups where people just bring whatever spec, you have no problem getting into pugs. The Barb can hold its own. It's tanky. And yeah, you should be able to get pretty much your whole season journey done with this build. It's really solid overall. In terms of rotation, oh, it's really easy, man. All you got to do is jump 3 times, right? 1, 2, 3. Okay. While you're midair, I like to cast Warcry and Threatening Shout. After your 3rd leap, you're going to dump your Fury like that. With the way that Leapquake works, it's going to reset the cooldown on Leap itself. You can see the 2-piece reduce the cooldown of Earthquake, Avalanche, Leap, Ground Stomp for every 30 Fury you spend. So you can see having Max Fury on your Paragon, Max Fury on your weapon. On your belt, I would probably get Life per Fury. But if you can get Max Fury and Life per Fury, why not? I think it's actually possible. Yeah, it's possible. I was just like, let me double check really quick. So yeah, jump, 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 and dump. After you dump the Fury, you should have jump back. So it's a jump and dump type of spec. Hope I don't get demonetized for that one. It's really easy to use F and R in the build. We'll cover that in the gear section in a minute. But yeah, it's easy to keep up F and R. It's easy to keep up your defensive buffs. The rotation's pretty cozy, man. You really don't have to worry about anything else. I guess in terms of gameplay, remember when you have Life per Fury, you're dumping all your Fury. Right now I have 186 Fury in the build, right? So you're dumping all that and you're getting health back in return. Life for Fury is one of the best ways to get health back in the game. So sometimes you would use Seismic Slam early to get that health back as well. So you kind of have to play around it. Because you have infinite mobility, essentially, you can jump in every single Oculus ring. You also have this belt called Girdle of Giants. Seismic Slam increases the damage of Earthquake by 200%. It only lasts 3 seconds. Use Wrath of Berserker when you need it on cooldown. So stacking cooldown would be good in the build, but it's not absolutely necessary. You're pretty tanky. With the Iron Impact rune, you get 150% on Leap. You can see the 4-piece gives you that 150. So you could even stack red gems in your gear for more synergy. But I wouldn't recommend red gems till you pass like 2000 Paragon. Before that, I would stick with diamonds for sure. But Bloodshed, this is not the gear section, man. Bring up the gears. All right, let me bring up the gears for you. This is the build screenshot portion in case it's down on launch night for you. Let me make sure everything's in frame here, nice and pretty. So you guys can copy and pasta. So here's the build right here. Earthen Might's really good, because you get Fury when you trigger Avalanche or Earthquake, which you're doing nonstop. So the Fury is just rolling in like crazy, right? And then the reason why we're using Rumble is because it dumps everything. And then we also need Seismic Slam for the belt, right? So Rumble's best in slot, in my opinion. You can swap out Nerves of Steel for another damage passive if you like. I just prefer going with that Cheat Death as it makes things a little bit more smooth, especially dying in Season 22. If you die, you lose your Shadow Clone. This ended up being my favorite build on the PTR here. Let me bring it in frame for you guys. With the Furnace, Focus and Restraint, you can actually use Bandamite, and you can use the Ring of Royal Grandeur now because we have that 4 slot. And I'm also rocking the Odd-Guild set, so I'm kind of overkill on elite damage. If you don't want to use a two-hander, you can definitely go like fire damage weapon and a Sunkeeper for that elite damage, or whatever combo you want to do. The weapons are open season. I prefer the Furnace. The Mace has some of the biggest two-handed damage scaling in the game, so I would go that route. If you don't need an SO, you can feel free to swap it out. The world is up to you, chat, okay? So also make sure you read every description on my video, because that's where the 4 slot is. It's hidden down here in the description. I also have like some stats down here for you to remember. Life per Fury, fire damage, crit damage, strength, and cooldown is really important. Notice I don't have max Fury, because it is important, but it's not as important as, I wouldn't like, lose fire damage or something like that for it. Not that they really ever come into the same arena, but it's important, but I don't think it's as important as it may seem at first glance. And the Loot Socks is what allows us to jump 2 additional times. Leap may be cast 3 times within 2 seconds before the cooldown begins. So that's pretty cool there. And you can get these at level 1 with a Barbarian. You can also get the Band of Might at level 1 on a Barbarian. So overall, easy to gear, rock solid. You don't even need all ancients for this bad boy. In conclusion, I really like this build. I have a blast with it. I've played it a few times on hardcore, on softcore, and it's always gone well. I've always enjoyed my time, right? And I think you will too if you've never played it before. It does have that indirect tankiness that you don't see at first, but as you get better with the build and you understand that you can jump anywhere and reposition, you don't have to, you can hopscotch over laser beams with 3 jumps, you know, like you have the beam coming, the beam comes, you know, it's like some kind of Fall Guys mini game and you're over here, right? And then you can dump your fury prematurely or on time and get your health back. So you have like a lot of healing indirectly, and then you have a lot of mobility and extremely high amounts of armor. If you think about it, Stone Gauntlets is about 250% armor, and then the Iron Impact Rune's 150. So you got like a 3-stack Stone Gauntlet with the build, and it scales with your gear. So as you get more strength, you get more survivability, which is pretty awesome. I got more videos to come. The tier list is going to be before the season. Don't worry about that. I got more off meta videos to make. I got more meta videos to make. And yeah, I hope you guys continue to support. If you could leave me a like on the video, I would much appreciate it, man. You guys have been crushing the like button, and it just crushes my heart. So I really appreciate that, let's just say. This is Bloodshed, and I'm out of here. Peace.